Dr. Dan's Freedom Forum is on the air.
Good evening. This is Dr. Dan. This is the land of the free because of the brave. The biblical battle of good versus evil continues to rage everywhere on earth. We are in awe of and in debt to those who, with the courage, they have the courage to risk their personal safety to protect our freedom. How we honor their sacrifices defines our own moral character. Recently, I learned about a disabled Army veteran who got into some serious trouble with law enforcement in the city of Gastonia, North Carolina. Joshua Rohr is an Army veteran who served from 2002 to 2008, including one tour of duty overseas. Josh unfortunately suffers from PTSD as a result of his military service. He is receiving some medical assistance from the VA, but in order to function in society, he requires a service dog, and he has a service dog named Sunshine. Now, for technical reasons, we were not able to have Joshua live tonight, but here is his written account of an incident that happened several years ago in Gastonia. And I'm quoting, "I was homeless in Gastonia when someone called 911 saying I was endangering my dog and using my dog to get money. Police responded and escalated to violence, attacking me, tasing Sunshine, which ultimately resulted in her death and trauma and bodily injury for me. I also attempted to take my own life because of my grief. They tried to cover it up, lie, intimidate other witnesses, the public, and anyone showing opposition. They have a long documented history of abuse of the homeless. The DA was complicit by only charging me and not the officers. They led a 1.5-year-long campaign of slander, harassment, and gaslighting the public, and even commented on citizens' social media pages from their own official department Facebook page. No one local would touch my case, and I finally was able to sue them in civil court. Officers have yet to be charged. One was promoted, and that's the basis of the case." So Josh is now living, or was at that time living in Gastonia. He was homeless. He lived outdoors, and he had his dog Sunshine. And one thing about Joshua, we know he loved to talk to people. There's nothing wrong with that. Talking to people is actually pretty darn good. And that shows that he was very personable and had a good personality, because people obviously like to come up and talk to him. While they were talking to him, it was natural for people to try to help him out. And they helped him out in any way they could, whether it was to give him things that he needed while he was living homeless, or whether it was money to help him buy food or dog food for his dog. But he was is a very personal gentleman, and people liked to talk to him. So that is what was done in Gastonia. Josh never begged for money. He never begged for food. He often got money to help feed his dog, and he only walked down walkways with his service dog to talk to folks as they passed by. This, of course, is perfectly illegal. He has every right to walk on public property with his dog. Fortunately, the Gastonia police, when they arrived, Joshua was told that he was breaking the law, which he did deny. The officer requested backup and insisted that Joshua show a state ID, but Joshua did not have one that was valid. And instead, he showed the officer his VA identification card, which was the best thing he could do at the time. Well, the officer then slammed him up against the police cruiser, cuffed him, and arrested him for solicitation and resisting arrest. That was really the incident that got the hobo, everything started. So there he was, up against the hood of the car in handcuffs. Now he has a service dog. That service dog named Sunshine. You know what service dogs are supposed to do. That service dog is supposed to look out for the master. And so the service dog was barking. And as the service dog was barking and turned around, the officers tased the dog. Bystanders, and there were plenty of those, yelled for the officer to leave her alone. Sunshine ran away to a nearby store with one of the taser prongs still attached to her, I might add. Someone helped her and took her home so that she would not be, would have somewhere to stay. Josh was put in police custody. Sunshine was retrieved and then released. Unfortunately, she ended up running away, and again, like the training she had, where did she go? She went back to where she had last seen her master, and in running across the road, unfortunately, she was hit by a car and passed away. She was scared, and she was looking for her master, and that's what trained dogs do. So as things occurred, there were plenty of eyewitnesses, but what did not get seen for quite a while was the body cam footage. Eventually, that body cam footage did come out. They were refusing, the Gastonia police did refuse to release the body cam footage. So eventually did, and now it's available. And a lot of people have seen that footage. I have seen that footage. And basically what it shows, as best as I can determine, is that the officers asked for state ID. Joshua did not have state ID and offered VA identification. And at that point, the officer grabbed him, put him against the hood of the car, and handcuffed him. That is what happened. So eventually, that is kind of the story. There's legal things that went on with Joshua, which I don't really need to go into, but eventually those charges against him were dropped, a deal was made, and he is a free person at this point. Unfortunately, he felt that he had been wrong, or I say fortunately, he felt that he had been wronged, and he did sue the city of Gastonia. You know, it's very, very hard to sue government. It's very hard to do that. There are a lot of roadblocks in place. And eventually what happened is a judge made a decision that did allow his case to go forward. Fortunately, we'll see how that goes. One of the things that really concerned me about this is that the city of Gastonia has somewhat of a history of not dealing well with homeless people. Pastor Moses Colbert operated the Faith, Hope, and Love Enrichment Center, and he did that since 2019. And he provided meals, showers, and shelter to those who were in need. He'd serve around 40 people each night, folks from every walk of life, and he was a tremendous help because there are no other shelters in Gastonia. But recently, the Gastonia city government forced the pastor to shut down his center, which was in a church, and stop helping the poor. In their statement, they said that the church was built as a church and can only be used for that purpose, which does not include overnight housing. And so due to the city zoning regulations, shelters are not permitted by right in the city. So Take a look at something like that. Here is a church providing help to people who truly need it. Since when is it right for a church not to be allowed to do the will of God and help people? That is something the city has to answer for. Of course, they'll hide behind regulations and rules and things of that nature, because that's what government does. But just because they write it as a rule does not mean that it was right. Back in 2015, the Gastonia police broke into the home of a 74-year-old veteran named James Howard Allen for a wellness check at midnight. James unfortunately drew his firearm because he thought his home was being invaded, and he was killed on the spot. You can imagine being an old man recovering from surgery and having a group of strangers break into your home in the middle of the night. That is pretty terrifying, and it had an unfortunate result. So these are some of the things that the city of Gastonia has done in the past, and we certainly hope that bringing these things to light is going to make the city aware that they have to reform some of the things they're doing to help people who are homeless. It is very important that homeless be treated with respect and help. Not everyone who is homeless is there because they're not a good person or something like that. So homeless people need to be sheltered, they need to have hope, and they need to have help. And so when a church offers help, that is something that needs to be encouraged, not something that needs to be stopped. One of the things about this case that is also really very concerning to me is the fact that this whole incident, when Josh Rohrer was arrested, the whole incident began by a phone call to 911. When a woman called and complained about him walking in the public way and with his dog and accused him of begging for money. And that's what started the whole incident. So one of the things that concerns me about incidents like that is that that is the sign of what I would call a tattletale society. People who call the police department without knowing the facts, that's not right. If you call 911, you should have 911 should be used for life-threatening incidents where you need police, EMS, some kind of care to help someone who's in a difficulty, medical difficulty, or some other kind of difficulty. But tattletaling on your fellow citizens is something that dictators love. And the communists were in control of Russia and the USSR. When Hitler was controlled of Germany, they turned those societies into tattletale societies. So people could tattle on their neighbors. Many times it was done out of spite, not for any reason other than that. And of course, in a totalitarian dictatorship, the outcome was really bad. So it's important that we understand that a tattletale society is not one in which you can have, when you cannot have good relationships with people. You know, I have 3 rules for how to live together in peace with your fellow human beings. And I'll tell you what those rules are. The first rule is live and let live. That means live your life and let others live their life as they see fit. Leave them alone and they'll leave you alone too. Live and let live. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you is rule number 2. And that's self-explanatory. And rule number 3, of course, is don't hurt anyone and don't take their stuff. A tattletale society disobeys all 3 of those rules, and that's why it's not a healthy sign when someone can call up and do some things that caused some police action, which unjustified, unfortunately, in this case, but nevertheless resulted in harm being done to a person, to their service animal. It should not have happened. And it should not have been caused by that. So where is Josh now? And he has given me a statement that he's asked me to read, and I'm going to do that because I want you to understand what happens. Because of a single tattletale event, his life in Gastonia ended. He had to move elsewhere. And this is what he had to say about that. My arrest, and this is Josh Rohrer talking to you through my voice, my arrest and the death of Sunshine changed my whole life, terribly and permanently. Sunshine Ray was quite literally my ray of sunshine, and I have a much harder time navigating the world without her support. Physically, I have ongoing pain and mobility issues that affect me every day. Even more significantly, the event caused me severe mental and emotional injuries. I attempted suicide after Sunshine's death. I have nightmares, PTSD episodes, and panic attacks because of the incident, and I'm now afraid of police officers and fear for my life when I see them. I left Gastonia the second I was released from jail because I no longer felt safe there, and I am now housed in another county. I will never recover from what they did to me and Sunshine, but with my new service dog, Justice, I am determined to get accountability for what was done to me and to protect others from experiencing homelessness. He wrote a second comment to me, and I will read that as well. I'm relieved that both federal judges who have looked at my case agreed that Gastonia's conduct could be unlawful. I'm hopeful that the city of Gastonia will be held accountable for their official policy of hostility toward homeless people, which resulted in the officer's misconduct and use of excessive force during my unlawful arrest. Sunshine was not just my service animal, she was my entire world. I hope our trauma is not for nothing, and that it can change the future in a positive way for others by ensuring it never happens again. So you have seen there, you've listened there through me to the words of Josh Rohrer. Now that this incident, the acute phase of this incident, of course, is over. However, will not be forgotten in Gastonia because he has ongoing legal cases there, and we have yet to see what will happen with that. But again, I want you to understand, I'm bringing this to light to you because I think it's important. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And this is a biblical battle of good versus evil, which continues to rage everywhere on earth. People, the brave, they put their lives in danger for us. We know they are, and we are in debt to those who have the courage to risk their personal safety to protect our freedom. And this is the most important thing for you to take home tonight. How we honor their sacrifices defines our own moral character. It defines the moral character of our society. Respect our veterans. Help our veterans. There should never be veterans uncared for, homeless, and in need. They have given everything to protect us. We need to be sure that we protect them. This is Dr. Dan. Resist tyranny and trust in freedom.